Hi, YouTube. Let's grab our friends over on Twitch here and we'll get this puppy a moving. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm Bill Whittle. It is a Friday night, the 5th of June. 5th of June on the dark of the moon. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm doing much better than I was last week as I was recovering from those Giardia guys. Main reason I'm feeling better is because I had two fairly big. Let me just move James T. Kirk with Starship Enterprise over just a little bit here. That's better. He's got my back. Two big projects that have been taking a bunch of my time. I've finished editing the Mike Rowe show on the one that I did the extensive use of the recreations on for Mike, and Mike had just the kindest things to say about the work and about me on camera. And so I'm really, really pleased with how that entire show came out, especially pleased with how the recreations came out. So that was good news. And then it looked like with a lot of help from the very talented folks over at PragerU, looks like I finally got the PragerU script about Artemis out the door after 3 attempts. It doesn't happen very often. I think it's because I get so deep into the weeds on Apollo stuff that, I mean, the first draft was just like a statistical analysis and I turned it in. I thought, I wonder if they're not going to like all this math. It's like, no, it's not a PragerU video. So I did another one that had, a little more variety to it. And they still said, eh. But we got a third one that's looks like we're going to shoot next week. So that's good news. I go to get the cardiogram on, I think it's Monday or Tuesday. And that will let me know whether or not I cleared the medical bar for the Beyond Clinic. I think I'll be fine. And if that happens, then I'll be able to set a date and we'll get all that stuff figured out. So that's all looking pretty cool. But the main thing I'm happy about cheered about, is that I get to go back to working on the colonies again. And I'm going to be doing a Monday night show for Stratosphere Studio. So we've got enough new stuff to talk about. It's going to be kind of a half happy-go-lucky and then a half hardcore, really deep in the weeds kind of thing. The happy-go-lucky part is, Castellan says we'll get to find out if you have a heart. I have a California raisin, which doesn't function by pumping. It functions by osmosis, Castellan. That's basically how it works. And the sludge that I use for circulation eventually just seeps its way from the top down to the bottom, and every night, and then when I go to bed at night, I hang from my feet, and sludge just sort of carries the waste products and the waste gases out and so on. I did vote for Hilton, and I voted for Pratt, and we'll talk about that on Monday too. I don't know if you got to see my little hummingbird thing, but that was fun. I maybe it's a good time for me to explain why build time happens. It's not that I get. Thank you very much for that. Hoping I get cleared. It's not that I do it on purpose just to break everybody's heart, mine included. It's just that I see what I need to do. I have a very clear idea of what I need to do, and I'm not prepared for the hiccups, for the little things that just don't work. I just, type in the same thing 15 times, and 15 times it renders something different. It's like, what do I have to do here? If you'll excuse me for just one moment, I know it's on the bingo card, but I am going to just jump up and switch SCE to aux on the air conditioning, because sometimes I need to trip the breakers for that thing to work. So if you just hang on 1 second, I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. See if that helps. All real men, by the way, like the feeling, love the feeling of multiple breakers. You know, when they're in like there's a bar, like 3 of them at a time with chunk chunk. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's that, and I guess we'll get into the questions pretty quick here. But here's what's going to happen on Monday. First part of the show is going to be, assuming I can recover. Then my PC is in with a guy who's I've been working with for years. He's just terrific. But I was able to get a hold of and digitize and get it off the CD and all the rest of this stuff. About 2/3 of the grazing show that I did back in 1993. And I showed it to Natasha, who hadn't seen it before, and she couldn't tell which one of the ones I was. So that'll be fun. We'll get to see 1993 Bill and all of his 34-year-old glory. It's about halfway, isn't it? That's damn near halfway ago. Oh, that's just terrifying. That's just really quite terrifying. So we'll do that, and then and that'll be the fun part. And then we're going to get into the weeds. This is Monday night, not tonight. I have been getting better and better and better at forming AI elements. It's just a little preview. Things that consist of reference photos, and once you've got them clustered together, you can drop the whole cluster of, let's say, 12 reference photos into an AI prompt, and it will go and get the best one on a frame-by-frame basis and coordinate it all and all the rest of it. So I've been good at that with characters, and then I started doing it with structures like the habitat, and they started looking pretty solid. And then still working on finishing the rover. But the one thing that I did spend the last couple of days on, just because I could do it without a whole lot of concentration and kind of work it around the other deadlines that I had, was the actual planet itself. So I've got Niflheim rendered from 13, 14, 15 different angles. And I spent some time with ChatGPT looking at each one of these slices, so you'd see it, you rotate it 15 degrees, 15 degrees, 15 degrees, and identifying like the major surface features in a term that the colonists would use. So there's a peak across a canyon, and the canyon's called the Gap, and the peak is called Candy Mountain. And bonus points to you if you know where they derived that name from, or where I derived that name from. John, I'm sorry. Somebody got to move this one thing just because I'm missing a little bit of a word there. Cocoa Bunny Music says planet name from Viking mythology. Yes, and here's why the colonies is going to be such a smash success. Because yes, at first everything was given Viking mythology names by the first survey crew, and everything was just kind of official, like the International Astronomical Association or whatever it is that certifies the games. But all of the names on the planet now, with maybe one exception, are the names that the colonists gave it. So so what once was the Northeast Barrier Mountains are just called the Hump now, and all of these albedo features, which are dark and light features. There you go, Kevin Gray for the win. And the names are just great. There's a gigantic, enormous canyon that runs from the highlands. There's an equatorial highlands around this planet, and the poles are lower. And when everything melts, and I mean everything melts, then almost an entire continent channels. This is just what Higgs field rendered. I told it to rotate the planet. It just invented it. I did a lot of Photoshop work to get one angle of it, give it enough information so it could do it. But then there's like this dark kind of a gash that flows from south to north, and that's going to be called the sewer. And when the whole planet melts, then that's going to be like watching like a level 5 rapids that's the width of Florida. So that'll be pretty cool. And then all of the stuff that we did for the planet features drove the ecology and the weather systems and the geology of the planet. As the planet rotated around, turned out there was an impact basin kind of feature. And I thought, okay, so the impact, well, I'll save this for Monday. I shouldn't get into this now. I'll save it for Monday. So the first part will be watching the grazing show. Hooray, what fun. And then the second part will be for anybody who wants to stick around. We're going to get down in the weeds with the naming thing. And then I can take that, and this is the first thing we'll use as a test for the hive mind thing in terms of naming features. Pretty soon I'll let people just have, entire planets and moons to themselves, but I've named the major features, and there's hundreds of little features to name, so kind of be fun to see how it works, and we'll kind of shake some of the bugs out of it. Alrighty then, let's have a look at what we've got for the questions for today. Nope. Yep. You never know what's going to, Rutan Valley, that kind of thing. That's a very tempting thing to do that I'm going to try and stay away from. I don't know. Anytime I see like the USS Carl Sagan or something, I get a little bit tropified, just a little tiny bit. But Bert will get his, the Boyd Mountains, those kind of things. They'll get their places. Maybe it'll be a ship name or something like that. Okay, so let's see what we got for our questions for tonight. But Candy Mountain. The planet has, P7 2017 says, remind me, the planet has an axial tilt and has seasons, or just an irregular orbit? No, it has a 3-degree axial tilt, so it has no seasons that are based on axial tilt, but it has enormous seasons, spectacular seasons based upon the eccentricity of its orbits in a very highly eccentric orbit. So there you go. No, I don't think I'll name it Asgard, Eric. I think that's a little too on the nose. It may have once been named Asgard. I think probably just call it the Landing now. But a lot of these names are very, very, very commonplace workplace names that regular people would name these things looking out the window. The only feature that still survives from the original Viking mythology colonial survey 100 years before is this giant volcano called Val, or sometimes they call it the Val, which is Valhalla, but everything else has been changed. Like this entire very high continent, very deep snowpack, and it's kind of like and when I say a dome, it's a dome that covers like the size of Russia. They call that the snow cone and that kind of thing. Dave says, wouldn't that kind of orbital eccentricity be caused by a moon or another star? Could be, but as it turned out, by happy coincidence, as Higgs field was drawing the back of the planet, they gave me a circular impact basin with a bunch of concentric rings around it. So I'm going to say there was a collision that nearly shattered the planet, and that's what knocked it into its elliptical orbit. So we get all this stuff back and forth. Oh, there we go. P7 2017 has gotten a hold of the Big Rock Candy Mountain. The Turners are going to live on a promontory which will eventually, over the course of fullness of time, be known as Turner Ridge. But they live right across the Gap. That's another name, just the Gap. It's a gap. And on the far side, since they're up very, very high, since he doesn't want to flood, from the highest point on Turner Ridge, they can see Candy Mountain off in the distance. And I got the name from an old song I heard and never forgot. I don't remember how long ago it was. It was probably 10, 15 years ago. Might have been during some of my historical research, but during at least it feels like it was during the Depression. It was a song that the hobos used to sing, riding the rails, and it was a song about a mythical paradise for bums, good old-fashioned bums. And one of the lyrics that Pete 72017 repeated was, "Oh, the buzzing of the bees in the cigarette trees and the soda water fountain by the lemonade springs where the bluebird sings at the Big Rock Candy Mountain." At the Big Rock Candy Mountain, there's something, something, something. There's little trickles of alcohol come running down the rocks. There's a lake of. Wait a minute. There's a something to and a lake of stew. You can paddle all around it in a big canoe on the Big Rock Candy Mountain. It's very charming. And when I saw this thing standing out there by itself, I said, Candy Mountain. Also because of Monsieur Candy. I thought I was going to hate Django Unchained. I really thought I was going to hate it, but I actually liked it quite a bit. So you never know what you never know until you don't know it. Well, let me just do a little minor adjustment here. Let me do it here. I got a new webcam controller, and it's pretty groovy, baby. Wait. Come back to me. Come back to me, baby. Yeah, almost there. Yeah, I think that framing is a little better. A little less headroom. Too much headroom. All right, so let's see what we got here in the forums for today. Where'd my mouse go? Stress for Lounge backup show questions for Friday, 26/20. That's today. Curated by Roadrunner. Thank you, Roadrunner. As always, deeply appreciate everything. Standard rules apply. So we got a Roadrunner, we got a Braden Higby, we've got a Road Rider, got a Capital G Geek, we got a Marusha Dark, we got a Braden Higby again, we got a broke college student, Eric Blake, and that's it. For the guys who are doing the curating of the show, the comments, Marusha and Roadrunner and Eric and all you guys, if from now on, if we could just post, we're not doing doubles. Oh, you did. Bill has indicated, limit your question to one per show. Bill has indicated that he will not take multiple questions from the same member. Posh and balderdash. But it does help. Thanks. Okay, Roadrunner, here we go. Let's get this show on the road. Greetings, friend Bill. Hello, Roadrunner. Am I a bad person for having a tiny hope that the National Socialist tattoo-wearing Graham Plattner wins this election in Maine? Not because I support him. He's a despicable person with a lot of seriously warped behaviors being reported in the press. But he is running against Susan Collins, who has been a pimple on the butt of conservatives for decades. Collins voted to convict President Trump during the Democrats' partisan impeachment proceedings. She voted against confirming Pete Hegseth as Secretary of War. She sided with the Democrats to limit President Trump's military power as Commander-in-Chief. She's also stated that she wants to get rid of the anti-weaponization fund for citizens who were victim of the Democrats' abuses of power. So it's not that I want the anti-Semitic pervert to win. I just want the Wicked Witch of the North to lose. Is that wrong? No, it's not wrong. One last thing. There appears to be no proof that Plattner wrote a book called Mein Kampf. Clever. Let me just take this, just because it flew into my head. Cocoa Bunny Music says, hi, will Musk's SpaceX play into some part in your sci-fi's history? I think probably not. 250 years is a long time. I mean, the Ford Motor Company is only a little bit over 100 years. The only thing I think of that's 250 years old, first thought came to mind was the East India Company. I really want to resist that kind of thing, Really want to resist it, but we'll have to see. So anyway, to your question here, Roadrunner, I'm mixed. I have mixed feelings about this. Part of it is, yes, I definitely want to see her go. I want all the rhinos out of there. I just like to see all the rhinos go. But she's going to vote with MAGA on more things than this guy will. So this is a case of the lesser of two evil arguments. Now, I'm willing to, I made my bones a while ago saying, many years ago, saying the lesser of two evils is the lesser of two evils. But I think it's also time to give some spankings to the so-called Republicans. So my answer, nuanced as it is, which gives you no useful information whatsoever, is I wouldn't mind if she lost so long as it doesn't cost us anything. If it came down to we lost a vote in the Senate, because even if she votes with you 50% of the time, it's a dangerous thing to be playing with. But I don't know. By the way, I had a real scare today. I took a nap early because, in fact, I was going to have to put up something special on the notification because I got a call after I set the show to tonight from Carl Higbee, who said, hey, about Higbee's producer, said, hey, can you do the show tonight? We're going to use a quote from your Iran speech. I said, yeah, I'd love to. So they said, okay, great. It said, can you be ready at 5:50? I said, 5:50, no problem. So I set my alarm for 5:40. So I'd be all set in the chair, ready to go. And then somewhere around 2:45, I start getting this phone ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing, and it just keeps saying wireless caller. And I was taking a little nappy poo, as I want to do, to get 2 days work out of one if I can. And finally, I picked up the phone and they said, Bill, where are you? And I said, what do you mean? I said, it was already 6 minutes after the hour, and Carl's just wrapping up his monologue. She said, can you get to the chair? I said, yes. We'll fly into the chair, turn on the thing, trying to get the mics going. I said, just F it, we'll do it live. And I'm sitting here, and I put my headphones out of the frame, and just as I get in the chair, I see Carl Higbee on the live feed saying, and with us tonight is political analyst Carl Schlichter and political analyst Bill Whittle. It was literally like I just jumped in the chair, just like still vibrating from the whole thing. So that was a bit of a scare. My fault for not making the conversion, but it would have been useful if they had made the point of reminding me that 6:50 Eastern is different than 6:50 my time. So anyway, back to the hilarity here. And it's actually really warm in here, which is really unusual. And I don't like it at all. Astronaut put a link up to Big Rock Band Candy Mountain. So I will, as far as this one goes, I think it's kind of useful to have an actual Nazi in the Democratic Party just for armor, just the kind of thing where you can just say, oh, we're the Nazis, you're the guys who elected this guy. So anyway, there's that. Braden Higbee, howdy from Idaho. Following on from Roadrunner's questions about the walking Molotov-Ribbentrop pact, I've noticed something I don't see most commentators talking about. In the middle of all of the standard scandals, it came out that he has a regular counselor and works on his mental health daily. And that seems to me to be the biggest red flag, a lot more than the fact that he can't keep his pants and can't keep it in his pants, and even the death's head tattoo. I know you've been open about your own mental health struggles, and the last thing I want to do is discourage someone from getting the help they need. But at the same time, we should recognize that a person with mental health struggles probably isn't the best candidate for high office. I know there are some notable exceptions to this, like Churchill and Lincoln and virtual President Whittle, but they weren't talking with a therapist on the regular. Have we taken destigmatizing mental illness and fallen straight into normalization? I'm usually a better living through modern chemistry kind of guy, but literally half of my friends are on a prescription antidepressant. Does normalization lead to a spread of these illnesses, or at least a spread of the self-diagnoses of these illnesses that are then confirmed by lazy therapists? Not trying to downplay anyone's personal struggles here, I'm just talking in the aggregate. P.S. We just buried my best friend's mom last weekend. Came out of the blue, and it wasn't immediately clear if it was an accident or intentional on her part, oh boy. So everyone here should check with the people they love, even if it would be the last person you think. And if you are a believer, I would appreciate prayers for her and her family. Well, first of all, I'm sure you will be getting as many of those as we can possibly send your way there, buddy. It's a terrible thing, even if it's your friend. Obviously, it's terrible, and the whole accident intentional thing is just a heartbreaker. So let's kind of unpack what we've been talking about here. I often talk about how much I'd like to be Secretary of Defense, but the fact of the matter is, if it was really honestly came to being offered these things, I would have to decline with thanks, for the reasons you mentioned. No, I don't think I'm mentally stable enough to be president. Now, let me add something that is very important here. I would rather have somebody like me who feels that I'm not mentally stable enough to be president than many of the people that have already been president who are in much worse emotional shape than I am, who never would dare to admit such a thing. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Uh, if you're comparing, I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're comparing a person on antidepressants to a person who is a uh, just a standard, run-of-the-mill, normal, healthy, well-raised person, then I would say no. I think it's disqualifying. The only reason I'm hedging a little bit is because so many of the people that have gotten into politics are just plain much worse crazy and could use some medication. But the honest answer, knee-jerk reaction answer is no. I think you're right. I think it should be disqualifying. Um, Now, we're about to run a very big experiment on this, and that experiment will consist of whether or not ibogaine does what it is claimed to have done or claimed to do, which is reset your nervous system. Just reboot it. That's one of the reasons why they say after the treatment, if you can afford to take the time off, take a week and go touch grass and hug trees, because you don't want your new nervous system to immediately immerse itself in the old strifes and the old stresses and so on. I've got a portable air conditioner here that has gotten me through many years in this building, but I'm getting really uncomfortably warm, so I'm going to go turn that on. But the problem is it's just louder than the devil, and I don't know what to do about that. I'm going to recycle the breakers one more time. I'm going to give them a little bit longer, and then I'm going to turn on that portable hurricane machine, because it's getting too warm in here for me to be able to sit here and answer comfortably. So hang on one second, and then I'll come back, and hopefully it'll cool down fast enough I can turn the loud one off. So talk amongst yourselves. Be right back again. Baby. Sweet, sweet air conditioning. All right, we're back. And we're back. I don't get to have commercial breaks like Johnny did. Okay, so what do we got here? I'm overwhelmed with Windows. New cooling system out there, cools any room in 15 seconds, costs $15 a year to run. Sold by the same people who can give you the recipe for Jello that burns 15 pounds off of you every 45 minutes. Yeah, absolutely. Kisama with a $5 super chat says, those who seek power are the last people who should have power. Amen. Couldn't agree more. But I hope that answers your question for you, Braden. I think, so in order, I would rather have a person that doesn't need antidepressants, and then I'd rather have a person who doesn't need antidepressants and is on antidepressants, and then I'd rather have somebody who does need antidepressants and who isn't on them. And it seems to me like a lot of politicians fall into that last category. So there you go. Road Rider. Hi, Bill. Remember when PG&E smart meters were going to give all of us cancer? Same panic about 5G. Before that, Y2K was a freak out too. Recently, hantavirus panic lasted a week, and that didn't pan out, so now it's Ebola. AI will kill all humans. That's the new big scare, but I'm not buying it. You just made a kick-ass video using AI that could help millions in LA. Thank you. I think that's pretty much it. I use it to help me with CAD software problems and overhauling an old CNC router table. AI makes me more valuable at work. Grok is the new Google for sourcing products and processes. Plus, on my daily commute home from work, Voice Grok is fun to ask questions on, things I'm curious about. Completely agree. The question, other than making kick-ass videos, how is AI helping you in ways you never thought possible just 3 years ago? Hope you do more of those videos. It's in your wheelhouse. The secret's in the prompt. Thank you. We will be doing more, but we'll be doing the Hummingbird video, which will run on Monday night. You know, although I could run it tonight, it is a political thing after. I'll run it right now. I just won't mince words here. The AI video that I did for Spencer Pratt is as close to AI slop as I'm going to get. And what I mean by that is, I just finished editing the Mike Rowe show, and that I was a guest on, and that I did a historical recreation for. I did a historical recreation. His subject took place in the 1888, in the 1880s, and it looked like a $10 million production. And so Mike and I talked about AI video. We talked about AI in general, what the future holds, and so on. And the thing I said there, then I think the thing that is probably the most valuable takeaway for what it's worth is AI is, like any other tech, is neutral. AI is not evil and AI is not good. It's neutral. It is a lever that multiplies the ambitions and the motivations of the people that use it. And so, like all humans, I will look at comments, and I'll see 100 great comments, and I'll see one comment that's not great, and that's the only thing I'll remember. I don't know what it is about people. It's one of the faults in the wiring. It just is that way, at least for artistic, sensitive types like myself. So to answer your question, when I was doing the Mike Rowe show, when we taped it, well, at least a month ago, maybe a little more than that now. And I said, Mike, there's stuff out there called AI slop. It's a great term because that's what it is. It's just slop. Everybody has access to this technology, which is wonderful, wonderful. But most people just type in something and it generates this stuff that's just so obviously fake. It looks really good, but it's just so obviously fake. And that's slop. And I said, I'm not interested in slop. I've started as a filmmaker, and I'm interested in it in order to use it in such a way where nobody can tell it's AI. I said, if somebody looks at something I've done, not counting the hummingbirds, that's why I consider that to be a little slop-ish. Come on, I just saw a text here, a little squirrel ran across the screen. But I said, if you can tell it's AI, and it's something I put out, if you can tell it's AI, then I think I failed. I said, however, and I said this a month ago, I said, however, if I was going to use AI for either a political reason or anything that's nonfiction, I would watermark it as AI. Because to me, that is just personal integrity. So that's what I did with the Karen Bass ad. And since the Karen Bass ad is political, I'll just run it now. It's going to take a second to find, and I'll run it again on Monday because I like it. Give me 1 second here to move all these bloody windows around, and it's only about a minute. For those of you who don't understand the hummingbird reference, by the way, Spencer Pratt, after he was a reality TV star, had a pretty big following on YouTube way before he ran for mayor, where he would just feed hummingbirds out of his hand in his backyard of his house that doesn't exist anymore. Because the reservoirs ran dry. So Spencer made the hummingbird part of his campaign logo, which I thought was really, really clever, because nobody that I'm aware of hates hummingbirds. I can't imagine a person I've never heard of a person you have to be psychotic to hate hummingbirds. And if I get a chance to talk to Pratt, it looks like he's going to get through to the election, although they keep counting votes until they get what they need. But right now, he's still got a pretty comfortable lead last time I checked. And if I get a chance to talk to him, now that he gets a chance to rest, I'm going to say, look, if I were you, I would make the hummingbird your avatar, not just something on your poster. I would make you the avatar. I'm sorry. I would make you the hummingbird. You're the hummingbird. You're the head hummingbird, and it's going to be Hummingbird Nation, or Hummingbird City anyway. And this hummingbird you ought to do a series of commercials where this hummingbird flies through the city and sees a problem, and the presence of the hummingbird fixes the problem. And a nation of hummingbirds or a city of hummingbirds is an expression you really ought to use, because nobody is anti-hummingbird. It's not MAGA, it's not Republican, it's not the donkey, it's not the elephant. It's like, who hates hummingbirds? If you can get people to believe that you're the hummingbird and she's not, she's the one that burned all those hummingbirds, then you are emotionally there. People are already intellectually on your side. This is what I would say to Spencer Pratt. People are already intellectually on your side. They want better roads. They want the homeless problem addressed. They want the drug problem addressed. They want the crime problem addressed. They're on your side intellectually. But emotionally, they cannot let go of the fact that I'm a good Democrat and a Democrat can't vote for a Republican or So just let them fly with the hummingbirds. And so that would be what I would do. So anyway, when I had several ideas for the Pratt campaign, and it looks like I'll get to use them now if he goes on to if it finally gets certified that he is in fact the number 2 guy. Clearly Bass didn't win. And last time I checked, Pratt was up by 6 or 8 points with 75% of the vote counted. So looked pretty good for him to go to November, which will give us 6 months to really start chipping away at this problem. So now let me find this little ditty, and I might run it twice only because it's so short. And then we can talk about it as a political tool, and I'll talk some more about AI and people's strange reaction to it sometimes. Where would I have put that thing? I would have put that in the desktop. But now I would have put it here in the Bass project. I know. I remember I hid it someplace strange. It was called a day at the beach. It's so ridiculous. Hang on, I'll just search for it. Sorry about the delay here, gang. I hate dead air, but there it is. Day at the Beach V2. Version 2, now with 100% fewer spelling errors. I posted the first one, and I sent it to everybody I knew. I finished working on it. Natasha was here. I looked up at the time. I started posting it at 3:51 a.m. At 9 minutes to 4 in the morning, I had finished the thing, and I was the last thing I did was to put the Photoshop stuff on, and Photoshop doesn't spell check, and I spelled neither incorrectly because I was stupid enough to follow the I after E except after C rule. Which has more exceptions than rules apparently. But version 2 has 100% fewer spelling errors, so I'll play that, why don't I? So we're going to go to black for a minute. If you see some other videos, just be cool. I wasn't planning on doing this. I should have been, but I wasn't. So hang on 1 second here, and then I'll run the thing, and I'll run it twice, and then we can talk about it.
on now. Get! Do you know who I am? Enough! I have had it with these mother-f***ing hummingbirds on this mother-f***ing beach! Now, get! Do you know who I am? Enough! I have had it with these mother-f***ing hummingbirds on this mother-f***ing beach!
There we go. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I thought it was, pretty effective at trying to pound the message home that this woman set these birds on fire. I thought the business of her running out of the water on the spray canister was a nice touch. And for some reason, the way that Sea Dance made her fall into the waves just made me laugh. Just thought it was funny. But yeah, I think that's a case of using it for good rather than evil. And also, I did watermark it, so I kind of feel like, okay, there you go. I'm going to turn off the freezer now. Hang on, we'll get back to business. It's cooled down a lot. Yes, it's posted on Bill Whittle channel on YouTube, and it's posted on Rumble. It's on my Facebook page on the Rumble thing. Hang on, I'll put a link in the contents. Why don't I? In the comments, rather. History, your videos, yes. Videos, yes, data, I actually paid money to boost this thing, and I got 3,000 views off of it from Google. That's not great. But here comes the link. Copy. Paste it there. PTSD there. So, like I said before we decided to run it, the negative comments, like it's just I used to not understand why actors always said I never read my reviews, and now I do, because you get some of these reviews may be absolutely accurate, some of them not. But there's one or two come in and they just get under my skin. It's not that I need to be liked by everybody. Half the people in the country can't stand my guts who've seen the stuff I do, but I like to be liked by my own side. That's what it is. I don't like letting people down who are on the team. And one comment underneath the Day at the Beach thing said, "Oh my God, not AI video, not you, Bill, you of all people," something like that. And I thought, I'll take it down. And so, it really is a tool like any other tool, and it's as good or as bad as the person wielding it, and its intent is as good as bad as the person wielding it. I know a lot of people, I've had a number of people, a lot of people have said to me, not a lot, 2 or 3, have said essentially, and if this is you I'm quoting, please don't take this personally, because I appreciate any kind of feedback. But somebody said, "Bill, you're making a big mistake hitching your wagon to this AI video thing. Everybody hates it, and it's going to just collapse." Well, I think everybody hates the bad stuff. I don't want to do AI video. I want to do movies. And I spend an enormous amount of time, we'll find some more evidence of that on Monday, trying like the devil to make sure that nobody can tell it's AI. Okay, so let's see, where were we now? Moving on. There it is. But thank you for the kind words, for all of you who had kind words to say. Capital G Geek, greeting from the swamps of Northern Virginia. Did I already greet from the swamps, or was I just an acid trip? Nope. Either America is a heritage nation again, like all the rest, property of the people who founded it and their descendants, or it is the only propositional creedal nation in the world. I completely agree with this, 100%. If America is a heritage nation, it's fairly easy to determine who needs to go back. The problem is that a lot of people think America is a propositional nation, but also want to allow people who disagree with them to disagree with the proposition to remain. We can't have it both ways. Either paper Americans can be stripped of their citizenship because they don't align with our country's values, or uninvited guests can go home. Maybe the full citizenship, voting, etc., should be different than permanent residency. A few sci-fi stories, notably Starship Troopers, had explored that thought a bit. Thoughts? And no, not Natasha, she had a sponsor. Okay, so this is a very important question, and it needs to be taken very, very seriously. I agree with your premise. We cannot survive as a nation if we are the only planet on Earth that everyone has a right to come and inhabit and bring their customs with them and their interpretations of the law and their interpretations of culture. If we are just essentially the sluice valve for the rest of the world's failed nations, then we are not going to last very long. And so the question, we have at least a two-part question, maybe at least a two-part problem, maybe it's even deeper than that. But the first part of the problem is, number one, does America belong to Americans? And I think the question is clearly yes. There's no question about that, and that America belongs to Americans, and England belongs to the English, and Ghana belongs to the Ghanans, and so on and so on and so on. I think that's, as they said in the olden days, self-evident. Now the question is, how do you decide who belongs here and who doesn't? One of the first things I ever said when I started writing Eject, Eject, Eject was I'd rather live in a nation of 300 million Thomas Souls and be the only white face in a nation of 300 million Thomas Souls than live in the current situation, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I think also that it is essential to the American experiment and essential to our success to have vigorous differences that are openly discussed. I think that marketplace of ideas and that constant battering between back and forth, at least historically, has kept us from becoming a nation that became too authoritarian, although we are rapidly, well, not heading into, we're already into a nation that is, I don't think I've ever heard this used before this way, but not authoritarian enough. We're now in a mushy, marshmallow kind of a s'mores kind of society where nobody is ever wrong and nothing is ever punished and everything is somebody else's fault or everybody's fault, so on and so on and so on. So what do you do about this? When I see people walking into stores and walking out with shopping carts full of stolen items, as well as receiving trillions of dollars in benefits over the course of the generations, that person doesn't belong in this country as far as I'm concerned. I think it's a fundamental mistake. It's an easy mistake to make. I make it all the time. But it's a fundamental mistake to make, to see large groups of people doing something and assume that everybody in the group is doing that. And this is where the issue gets very, very, not dicey, it's very clear. You just have to be very clear about what you're saying because it's so emotionally charged. Black American culture as it exists as a culture is almost as antithetical to America as Islamic culture is. That's what Black American culture has become. It wasn't always that way. It wasn't always that way. In fact, I watched it happen during the course of my lifetime, mostly during my recent lifetime. But there's no denying that it's antithetical. We are a high trust society. What makes America America is the idea that you can go on Halloween and when it's time for you to either go to bed or if you want to go out to a party or something, you can leave a bowl of candy out and put a little sign on it and says, please take one, and people will take one. The honor system it's not what makes America work. It's a symptom that America's working. And when that system goes away, the people that destroy things like the honor system, the people that destroy things like private property, who don't even bother to sneak merchandise out of stores anymore, the people who come here and kill swans and eat them and urinate in the streets. So there's plenty of Americans that are doing that in liberal cities. All these people have to go, and it's gonna. That's what the Civil War is going to be. That's what the conflict is going to be, and it's going to be a conflict. It's going to be. We're either going to have to enforce the law, or we're not. If we don't enforce the law, then we're done. If we do enforce the law, this will be on some not on a cosmic level, but on an earthbound level. It is unfair of us to start enforcing the law when we haven't enforced the law for 50 years. There's something fundamentally unfair about that. But that's the way it is, man. That's just, that's just too bad. When you find, so many of the problems that seem to be insoluble in this country are so easily remedied that it's enough to make you sick. Spencer Pratt had a very, very good run on practically what to do about the homeless problem and how virtually all homelessness is a result of drug addiction or severe mental health problems. So, how hard is it to fix? Well, when you find out that the people who are murdering people on the train have been arrested 50 times, that's how many times they've been arrested. 50 times for violent crimes. 55 times is a shocking and appalling number. I believe that people are allowed to make mistakes, but if your mistake costs somebody else their life or costs them being whole for life, then you have made a mistake that there is no coming back from. If you assault somebody and you break their arms or something, you're going to jail for 20 years. And if you cause them permanent lifelong injuries, you're going to jail for the rest of your life. I'd be willing to talk about parole in 30 or 40 years. But we're talking about people who are the number of people that commit the crimes, and it's not the 3% number that I'm talking about. The actual number of people is probably, I'll bet you it's less than 1/10 of 1%. I'll bet it's closer to 100th of 1% of the total population commits 80 or 90% of the crimes, and that'd be blacks, whites, Mexicans, all of it. Just that. So those are the people that have to go, and I would prefer not to lock them up. I really have said before on this show, I think the fair thing to do would be, if you are caught stealing like that 3 times, I don't even know why I'm going 3 times, but I'm gonna allow a grace period for people to get the message that we're not fooling around anymore. But after your 3rd time, you should be placed on an island. The United States should buy some real estate. We've got the money to buy real estate in the world, and we should simply buy an island or 2 or 3 and drop off supplies. And I am enough of a humanitarian, and I'm enough of a person with a conscience to say that I am willing to have the United States government, through my taxes and yours, pay for weekly food drops into this penal colony. But I am not saying we're going to put boots on the ground and be prison officials the same way that we put boots on the ground in Iraq or Afghanistan. We'll feed you, and you can sort the rest out. And if you don't like living with animals or acting like animals, well, write us a letter, and we'll consider letting you off of there if it feels like you've learned your lesson. But most of these people they can't learn the lesson. They're not capable of it. Coffee Shinato says, no work, no food. I say that's a them problem. Coffee Shinato. We drop off enough food for everybody. If they want to have warlords who are distributing the food and do it that way, not our problem. We had a lawful society, and you not only pissed on it, but you celebrated pissing on it. You danced on the grave of it. You did videos showing off all the stuff you stole. Okay, now you can go live on the island, and now you can steal as much as you want to. And guess what? There won't be any cops there, so everything should be hunky-dory. Without a racist police force on that island, and without a patriarchy on the island, it should be a kind of paradise, I would imagine. Everybody will be able to share the food that's dropped off from free equally, and we will provide enough food for everybody, so it's essentially the equivalent of a living wage, and this little island will be a paradise. Be a paradise for you. Be everything that you ever asked for on the left. And that's it. Kirk says drop off food and farm implements for a year than nothing. I'm a little bigger hearted than that, because I don't think this is a big hunk of money, frankly. And we are a food producing nation. I say we drop off supplies equal to keeping the population fed every week. Not gourmet style, but enough rice and chicken and beans and things like that, Yeah, I'm all in favor of it. And you can set up any kind of government you want to. And all of the women can go live on one side of the island, away from all of the men, and they can have their non-patriarchal society, and everybody's going to learn a big effing lesson really effing fast. That's my solution. That's what I would do. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. I got to turn the air conditioning back on again. I'm sorry you get to see all kinds of shirts. I should change my clothing every time I make a stage exit. It's either freeze or boil, but I'd rather freeze. Because I'm from hot places. Sorry, James Secret. Bermuda, Miami, California. It's hot. It's hot. Oh, yes. Oh. I will leave it on. Yeah, Eric says, how about make it live chickens? It's a good idea. Let's airdrop some live chickens in, and maybe somebody will be smart enough to realize that they could breed chickens, and then they can sell chickens to people on the island. They can change them for seashells or whatever their form of currency is, and everybody will be absolutely happy, and there won't be any carbon dioxide emissions, and everything will be grand. No big pharma, nothing. Okay, Marusha Dark. Tonight, the case of the petty Lego theft. Yeah, I've heard of this, I think. It's a lot to read, man. Okay, not sure if you've been following the epic saga of the Lego theft scandal, but it's blowing up all over the internet. The whole thing's more gripping than any crime drama on television. Here's the synopsis, and I'm going to synopsize the synopsis. Apparently, a guy owned a Lego store or something like this, and he collected a lot of Lego collectibles, and was like 200 grand. And then the owners of the store, who apparently legally owned the Lego sets, said, no, it doesn't belong to you anymore, even though you've been collecting it. They basically took it from him. They stole it from him. And then some guy drove 5 hours or 5 states or whatever and did all sorts of commando stuff and said that the company that took the stuff away from this guy is the company that steals from old people. And now there's all kinds of blowback and lawsuits and all the rest of it. Marusha says, at the time of my writing, there are 3 parts up on YouTube, waiting to see how the story ultimately resolves. Reminds me of the Afro-Man scandal, which I don't really remember. I guess if there's a question here, after a significant number of words, I guess if there's a question here, it's what drives people to be this petty and corrupt? Why do they insist on making the anti-corporate lefties and the ACAB people look justified? See, you could have just said, I guess you've heard of the Lego scandal. If there's a question here, here it is. What makes people this petty and corrupt? There you go. Nobody knows. Marusha, nobody knows the answer. I know it's easy to seem like you're putting all of the, not you, me, putting all of the negatives of humanity on the other guy's side and all of the virtues, heaping it on ours. But the fact of the matter is, we are not influenced by, well, if I hadn't heard of the story, Eric, then I have nothing to say about it. There are people who are greedy for money. There are people who are greedy for power. And then there are people that are not greedy. This government is designed for a virtuous society. It is utterly unsuited for any other, and that's really what it comes down to. The store owners, the people that took this from this guy are turds. They're just horrible, rotten people. The kind of, you have to be prepared to have a lot of diffusion along the edges. What I mean by that is, I believe in free markets. I believe in obviously, I believe that there is a economy and that there are people who make money off of moving money, and I get that. But when you get to things like, like Gordon Gekko in Wall Street, he's a cartoon, but he is based on some fundamental realism. It takes a special kind of person to look at a company that's employing 400 people and their families, providing for their families, and say, I can go in there, fire 3/4 of those people, that'll affect the books, then I sell the company's out of business, it doesn't exist anymore, none of those people have jobs, none of those people are making money anymore, but I get $50 million. Now, that is not something that I could do. And it's not something, if you're watching the show, that you could do. It's just wrong. It's evil. And I think that people should go to jail for doing evil things. I mean, I think it's really quite shockingly wrong. I've talked about this so many times. Eric says the weird thing about Wall Street is that Gordon Gekko is right until all of a sudden he's the bad guy for the climax. Look, when I saw him talking about scooping out a company, and it wasn't a failing company, if I remember correctly, it just wasn't as profitable as it could have been, went in to destroy the company so he could get his money out of it. That's not the good guy. George Bailey's the good guy, and that's what makes It's a Wonderful Life work more than a Christmas fantasy movie. It's about requiring internal virtue to have a virtuous society. And if you don't have internal virtue, then you can't do it. And that means that herein lies the problem. There's a problem with the crime and the homelessness and everything else. Virtuous people do not enjoy hurting other people. They don't enjoy bringing the hammer down on other people. They don't enjoy getting in other people's business. That's why we're so passive when it comes to people doing things like stealing from department stores. Although I couldn't watch it. I could not. I honestly, I would rather go to jail than say I stood there and watched somebody just steal that stuff in front of my eyes. I'm sorry, I'm just not. So that's really what it comes down to. We are not set up to enforce virtue, but we should be. And what I was going to say earlier was, you only need 3 laws, don't hurt anybody, don't take their stuff, and do what you promise you're going to do. The first 2 are criminal law, the third one is civil law. That's pretty much it. And ultimately, if you want to boil all of that down, you really can just have one law, which is don't be a dick. I mean, really, if the motto on our money was don't be a dick, do what you want, but don't be a dick. If you could make that legally actionable, then trials would be about whether or not the person was being a dick. Are these people taking this guy's lifelong collection of $200,000 and leaving him broke after he'd been working on this for the longest? Yes, they're being a dick, guilty. Was the guy a dick for murdering that guy in the tent? I've forgotten the names now. Yes, you're a dick. You're going to jail forever. So there you go. So there's that. Braden Higby, howdy again. I know I saw a double in there somewhere. Was it Braden? Was Braden the offender? Let's see what Braden says. Oh, well, this is worth it. Howdy again. It's nice and short, and it's good news. In the midst of the doom and gloom, I think it's important to celebrate wins. One of the private reactor companies reached cold critical today, marking the first reactor built at Idaho National Lab since 1977. I thought the July 4th deadline was impossible, but it turns out you can actually just do things. Yes, good for them. Good for them. I'm glad to hear that. And by the way, we are now, a month away from the 250th birthday of this nation, and anybody who lived through the bicentennial can simply not believe how pathetic this milestone is. It's a quarter of a millennium. Nothing. It's shocking. Okay, 2 to go. Broke college student. Hello, Bill. Wanted to add to Capital G Geeks question. Competing tribal loyalties increase as racial national heterogeneity increases. If the country's 99% the native ethnic group, then there's little power in minority solidarity. One Italian fine, but many Italians mob. Not saying it's evil, but your wife is tied to Russian affairs by the nature of having a Russian mother and daughter. What happens in Russia affects her, and by extent you, way more than a 7th-generation Iowan. Is this unfair? No, it's perfectly fair. I think the leftist who shot Charlie Kirk should hang, but he is our problem to address. In some sense, we are our brother's keeper, and while leftists are still our countrymen and should be deinstitutionalized where possible. The Latinos who rioted in LA with Mexican flags during the start of Trump's second term are not our problem and need to go. Would you disagree? No, I would agree 100%. We kind of covered that earlier. I'd include American blacks in this, but not Somalis or Haitians. Yeah, Somalis and Haitians, goodbye. Goodbye. We invited you here. We tried the big experiment. The big multicultural experiment is, look, I'm going to use a Vietnam term because it's appropriate. The big experiment assumed that inside every Haitian and Somali and Ecuadorian and pick one, that wanted to come to this country was basically a Haitian with an American inside that was struggling to get out. That was what the big experiment was predicated on. It was predicated on the idea that these people want to be Americans, they know how to be Americans, they just happen to be born in a different country. We should let them in and they'll contribute and all the rest of it. But it's just not true. It's not true. It's not true. They don't have the capability and they don't have the desire. And Roxanne says Islam has got to go. It's got to go. I agree. I'm sorry that I have to say that. I'm very sorry that I have to say that. But Islam has shown that, well, Islam has shown nothing. Before the first Muslim came to America, Islam was incompatible with the United States of America. Not just, no, that's wrong. That's not what I meant to say. Islam is antithetical to the United States of America. Islam, you have no right to the free speech, and if you exercise your right to free speech, you're killed. If you exercise your right to religion, you're killed. If you exercise your right to women having an actual life on their own, you're killed. They're killed, whatever. It is antithetical. And when we talk about Muslim immigration, we thought that Muslims would immigrate to America, they would have their religion, and they would have their traditions and their ceremonies, but they would not be doing the things that were against the law of the Constitution of the United States, and they sure as hell wouldn't be setting up little enclaves where they have their own 7th century barbarism that they are allowed to use on their own people and on anybody who happens to walk into the way. Little 14-year-old girls walking in the park, well, guess what? So, no, goodbye. We tried it. It didn't work. That's the whole Amelia thing, and I think that's exactly the answer to this whole answer to this thing. Is it's like, look, you white people are so awful and racist. If we're so awful and racist, how come we let you into the country in the first place? If we're so racist and terrible, how come we let all this happen? If we're such a patriarchy, how come we've allowed women's lib? We can stop it any time we want to. How do we get to this point? It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. So if I forget what the number of immigrants, I think the number of people who are migrating in the world, migrating out of countries, I think 83% of them are from Muslim countries. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? No, we are not obligated to slit our own throats so you can have our nice stuff. No. The left will say, yes, we are. The left will say, yes, we are, because of all the terrible things we did, like electricity and vaccines and air conditioning and airplanes and jet travel and sanitation and all the horrible things that white people have inflicted on the world. We are so guilty that we are obligated to slit our own throats and bleed out in front of the people that we committed these atrocities upon so they can have all of our nice stuff. Well, even if that were true, and it's as far away from the truth as you can possibly get, as far as you can get from the truth, but even if it were true, you are not giving the people who are inheriting the nice stuff are not going to keep the nice stuff because they don't know how to maintain the nice stuff and they have no inclination. They have no inclination to maintain the nice stuff. So, boom. Dark Chuck the Merciless says UK's coming around 10 years too late, same as NYC. They're certainly coming around late. Is it too late? I don't know. But I do know that, look, the question is very simple. Are the people that are the natives to their country, let me be clearer than that, are white people, people of European descent, are they going to actually get to the point where they're going to fight for their country against this invasion, yes or no? And when it comes to America, and America only in this particular case, I would say, will Americans fight for America? And I specifically include the number of people who I consider to be an American fighting for his country, would be guys like Alfonso Rachel and Thomas Sowell and all the rest of them. Those people are Americans, and they are fighting for America the same way you and I are. That's not to cover my ass in case somebody pulls a quote out of context. That's just the fundamental truth of this. This is the fundamental truth. And there are many lily white liberal chicks who can get the hell out of this country, who hate this country, haven't got the faintest idea what this country's about, and talk constantly about how they're going to destroy this country. Goodbye, adios, go live somewhere else. So yeah, it's real simple. I don't mind. I've got no problem with having America. In fact, not only do I not have a problem with this, I think it's essential to America to have people in this country who fundamentally disagree with me and who I fundamentally disagree with. Those people don't have to go. If they love this country and they're arguing for a different way to run it, then that's what keeps everybody honest. But if they're here to destroy this system as we understand it, to destroy the history of this country, destroy the culture of this country, and to destroy the spiritual backbone of this country, then no, goodbye, see ya. And if we run out of people, then we can bring some other foreign-born Americans into the country, unless instead of what we had. My wife is a Russian, grew up in Russia, but she cries on the 4th of July. She gets teary-eyed when she comes back to America, and they hand her back her passport, and they say, "Welcome home." She is so proud to vote in elections. She's an American who was born overseas, and we need all of those people we can get. Directly down the street from us are people who've been here for 7 generations, who will do anything they can to destroy this country, and those people got to go. Pretty simple, really. I think that's pretty much the way I would look at it. Last one for the night. Eric Blake, tonight the case of the California cleanser. So, Bill, as you hopefully know, there's been a lot of cleaning out of Republican deadweight in Congress, courtesy of Trump's endorsements in the primaries. Plus Trump's widespread cleanup of Washington, D.C. from the now very blue pool to some new statute. I haven't seen a picture of the pool yet. To some new statutes for America's common man heroes. Reports of nothing for the 250th are greatly exaggerated, and I'm fairly confident that this is a harbinger of all the big stuff to come. The MMA spectacular on the White House lawn, for example. Okay. So here's the question, Bill. How goes the California elections for you? Are you less hopeful than last week or more? Much more. We haven't had a mayor get primaried in this city for 20 years. The governor race looks like it's going to go to a Republican. I really think things have really looking very good for Republicans, and we're not there yet, but I would have advice for both of those campaigns, and I plan to do some political advertising. That's just one citizen contributing what other citizens do. I know how to use AI videos, so I'll make some AI videos, and it's the same as me putting up lawn signs as far as I'm concerned. But I don't want to be that guy, and I'm not usually that guy, and I don't think I'm even being that guy here, being that guy. But if you're telling me that the United States of America's celebration of its 250th anniversary is to have a mixed martial arts spectacular on the White House lawn, then I'm swinging a little towards the Bill Maher side on this one. I find that to be really appalling. I mean, just the worst thing about it is that it plays into the left stereotype of Trump and everything else. I mean, really? A mixed martial arts thing, huh? We can't have, the Boston Pops, who are all communists, playing, America's Greatest Hits and Sousa and Aaron Copland, or mixed martial arts in this giant thing on the White House lawn. It looks like idiocracy to some degree. Is Trump going to come out wearing a championship belt? I support this president and I love him, I do, but I'm not going to be quiet when I see what are to me own goals, really own goals. It just I know that term doesn't mean anything. It's from a game called soccer that apparently has something to do with kicking a ball around on the ground. But this is weak, man. I would like to see a moon landing. All of this stuff. I don't know. I guess I'm just going to let this one slide off my back the same way I have attempted to let the missing the eclipse slide off my back. I'm still not over it. Probably never be over it. But this is like, oh, okay, well, that's an opportunity missed. Because we've got 3 weeks, and so far I've seen red, white, and blue lights on the Hoover Dam, and I think the whole thing is not impressive at all. Beck supports the MMA event. Hope it ends the pussification of America. I wonder if he reads Kim Dutoit. I miss Kim Dutoit. I would like to see something with a bang, you know, something big. But anyway. Eric says, Bill, every time something new that happens big for the 250th, I'll let you know. I'll be waiting to hear from you, Eric, because I get the feeling the only way I'm going to hear about it is if you tell me. And that's not what it was like when we had a year of 76 flags and the bicentennial symbol, and we landed on the 4th of July on Mars with the Viking landers, first landers on Mars. That was, and those were big, by the way. Those Vikings, those things were just gigantic, the size of buses, those damn things, apparently. So anyway, that's that. All right, so that'll do it for tonight. I am been here for a long time. Been here since about 6:30 this morning, 7:30 at night now, and I kind of think I need to go on and do that. We'll do something, Quibo. Don't you worry. Looking forward to Monday night. Looking forward to getting back on the colonies again, and I'm going out there. Well, Cocoa Buddy says, but Bill, thank God it wasn't Kamala in office for the 250th. That's the 250th anniversary is celebrated by the fact that it's not going to be Kamala Harris conducting the ceremonies. 100% amen. Couldn't put a better button on the night. I absolutely agree 100%, and it is the best present this country ever got, ever, was that we didn't have to deal with President Harris or President Biden's second term. My God, could you imagine? And by the way, I'm going to have fun with Karen Bass, but I'm going to have an absolute blast with Kamala Harris running for governor, if that is in fact the case. I don't even know whether she threw her tiara into the ring or not yet, but in any event, yeah, Darth Chuck the Merciless has got it right. Just don't be a dick, folks. That's simple. Just go out there and don't be dicks, and we'll see you on Monday night with some not so much cool stuff to see, although there'll be a little of that, but cool stuff to talk about. So until then, that'll do it. The show's made possible by the members of BillWhittle.com, who keep the lights on, and many other things going as well as special individuals, and you know who you are. For those of you who are really into the whole crowdsourcing thing that I've mentioned before, we'll get our first chance to put that through the ringer and try and figure out a system for that on Monday, because I've named 20 of the major features on this planet, but there's about 100 that need naming. It's time to go. And we'll have some fun with that. In any event, I've done so much background work in the last 2-3 weeks on the planet. On the planet's social history, its geology, its astronomical history. This planet is already it's written down. It's not just in my mind, it's written down. Niflheim is, I believe, in the bottom of my heart, Niflheim is already the most fleshed out, realistic planet in science fiction, and I'm including Arrakis in that. Okay, thanks everybody. Great talking to all of you. Good to see you all again, and we will see you on Monday night for your very own Stratosphere Studio. Hooray! Okay, YouTube, get out of here. Go on, leave. And I'm going to turn off the stream, so no use hanging around all night waiting for me to come back. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. You hear me? You hear me? It was a one-off. It was a one-time thing. What's the word on the street? Don't mince words with me. Tell me the truth. I miss Phil Hartman so much.